Welcome to Building Fortunes Radio. Make sure you check us out at buildingfortunesradio.com. Along with KISK, our Keep It Simple Circle marketing partners, we are here to help our Humongous AM and Humongous FM radio customers build their businesses and make the world a better place. At Building Fortunes Radio, we know how much your business means to you and the people important to you. So join us to make the world a better place. Spread the word, tell a friend, and go make a difference in your world. Now on to our show with your host, Peter Mingils. Take it away, Peter.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingils here. You are listening to the Count on the Truth radio show with me. I'm Peter Mingils and Ken Nielson. This is on the Building Fortunes radio network as well. And if it looks like Ken is everywhere, it's probably because he is. We put countonthetruth.com and countonthetruthradio.com on the map. We put it on buildingfortunesradio.com, .net. We have Humongous Radio, it's really big, and then we do the AM and the FM station as well. Each one of those puts this on Amazon, and they put it on Apple's podcasts, and we even do like iHeartRadio and Spotify, and lots of big ones and other small ones as well. And recently we started posting these on YouTube and Facebook as well. So if you see Ken Nielson all over the place, it's because he is. So we're talking about home-based businesses and the reasons why people get involved in home-based businesses. And I've known Ken for a dozen or so years. We've been doing this radio show for a few of those years. And we came up with the domain name countonthetruth.com because that kind of exemplifies, if you will, some of the reasons why people would work with Ken. They want to count on him and count on the truth. He's a good guy, super-duper hard worker, has been talking about this sort of stuff for a number of years, certainly has learned his trade and been studying this sort of stuff, and can help you, if you're interested, learn about home-based businesses, health and nutrition, all the other sort of things. And through our support as well, you kind of get a double whammy. So if you're looking to make a measurable difference in your life one way or another, whether it's on income or health or community or anything else, sometimes even just learning some stuff, you want to definitely check out countonthetruth.com. So, Ken, thanks for being here on your own radio show.
Hey, Peter. Hey, great to be connected. And appreciate your patience, your inspiration and wisdom when it comes to all the things associated with the industry. And I say that because I think it's misconstrued. There's a lot of skepticism, like you've mentioned before many times. And I think there's too many things that have been presented that make people turn their head and turn off, maybe doing some homework and not paying attention to what really is going on. And that's why I think it's critical to at least kind of try to get our message out there every now and then and give something people maybe a different viewpoint or a different way to look at things. And in fact, just even getting started, this is the first time I've used a cell phone to be on here and hopefully sound okay and go that direction because I've got a problem with my landline. And I apologize to the people that maybe have tried to get a hold of me. I've just found out in the last couple of days that there's a busy signal on there, just like back in the old days, you didn't have a voicemail that you could go to and leave a message and then get back to them. But it's a busy signal, and I was like, I can't call out, and I can't have anybody call in. So, gonna have to get on there, and here we go with the troubleshooting again. But hey, that's part of life, and that's the way it works. You fix things as they go, or you go as things are getting fixed. And I always say to people, are you a solution to the problem or a problem to the solution? And I think that's critical because I think people make some of these things a lot harder than they need to be. And just kind of wanted to go over a few things, and maybe I'll just start with this, Peter, because I know we've talked about a book by Burke Hedges, and it's called Parable of the Pipeline. And I've thought about all the experiences that I had as a young person, being able to go out to my grandparents' place, and I remember neighbors, the closest neighbors were more than a mile away. And I thought that was the greatest thing in the whole world. There was nobody around to bother you, tell you what you were doing right, what you were doing wrong. And I bring that up because they had to be self-sufficient. And obviously, with the way development takes place nowadays, we were talking about the younger people wanting to live the American dream, which is another book by Burke Hedges, Who Stole the American Dream. So I think there's a lot of power in just a couple of ideas or concepts here. And, of course, we've talked about our own economy, your own economy, which you're very adept to helping people understand that concept. And why not own your life? I mean, you're here. There's really, it seems like there's only one way out, and I'm sure there's different ways. There's more than one way out. But as long as you're here, why not live life on your terms? And I think that's where people are really confused with this industry, is they don't understand that it's possible to live life on your terms because of being involved with the home business industry. And I'll just make a couple comments here about, for example, tax benefits. For example, the fact that you can be a distributor within a particular company, that you have services, products, or both, that make it possible for you to earn an income that grows exponentially and geometrically as time goes on, if you learn how to present and help your organization grow. And I just think it's an incredible option for people if they just would understand the basics. And one of the things that I had mentioned this week to some of the people, I said, did you know that if you own your own business, you actually have tax savings that are equal to about $7,000 per year as write-offs? And they look at you cross-eyed and they go, what are you talking about? And so it can lead to a conversation, but most time it's just kind of like, well, never heard that before, so that really probably can't be true. And so I kind of thought back about, especially the first book I mentioned, Parable of the Pipeline. And when I was younger, I remember getting water. You went out to the well or went out to pump water. And then, of course, you have ways that they had water come into the home, whether you had drinking water or you had irrigation water. But most of the time it was you had to go out and pump your own water. We had water rights when we did the garden, when we grew the garden. Speaking of self-sufficient, we had water rights. And the water rights, you could use the water on either odd days or even days. And not only did you have the rights to that particular water that came from higher up into the foothills of the mountains, it had to be guided and directed and turned certain ways, directed towards where you were going to do the gardening. And when you finally got it coming down the right ditch line, and still with a short turn, you had to make the water turn at that particular junction in the ditches that they had, so that you could feed it, whether it was running east and west to north and south, into the garden, where you would let the water run in, and you had to make sure that the furrows were ready. You had to make sure that the water was going to get to the places where it needed the plants and the vegetables and the fruits and all that would grow. And so that in itself was a challenge. And then you had, if you were doing the bigger fields and helping people out, and I think of the alfalfa fields in particular, where we had to unhook pipelines and move them. So you would water for so long, and then you'd have to go out and move them so many feet in a horizontal path or a parallel path, so that you could water the next part of the field and grow your alfalfa. And some days were just absolutely miserable with all the mosquitoes, especially depending on what time of the year it was. But you talk about self-sufficient, and I don't know that the younger folks understand self-sufficient like we did. If it came time before winter, we had my grandparents, they had apple trees, so we had apples. My aunt, who was my mother's sister, they had pears. The other sister had apricots, and they would change and help each other by saying, okay, you want some of my pears, I'll take some of your apples. You want apricots? And I remember it's just things like that. But the bottling, not only were you growing your own food, but you were bottling it for wintertime, because there just wasn't going to be anything during winter unless you had it bottled up and it was there for you to be able to have at your disposal or have at your access, so that you could use it for whatever you're doing. And homemade bread with apricot jam and real butter, unbelievable, just absolutely unbelievably good. And the one aunt was better at making strawberry pies, and one was great at homemade bread. And oh man, it's such great memories. And we'd, of course, when I would go out to see my grandparents, they always said, okay, if you're going to go out in the garden, We don't want you eating all off of the raspberries off of that one plant, or the pea pods, or the green beans, or whatever. Kind of had to mix it up. And I remember going to pick pears, and all the little designs that the wasps had made on these pieces of fruit. But man, you're thinking, I'm going to go out there and get one of those. You learn which one of the fruits were real juicy, but you go out there and then you had to dodge all the wasps and not get stung while you were trying to get the fruit, because you wanted one of the best pears that you could get. And another thing that I don't think most of the there's a lot of people that haven't experienced it, but I don't know if you've ever eaten an apple and bitten into a worm, Peter, but it's not a very pleasant experience. Those little jerks that go, it's one thing to see the holes in the apple on the side, but when they sneak in up by the stem, you don't necessarily see it, and you bite into that other part of the apple, and there's half a worm in there. It's a pretty bad tasting apple at that point. Leave a mark
on your brain.
Oh boy, exactly. And it was enough to make me spit it out, and I was wondering why that part tasted so bad. And then you see the other half of the worm wiggling in the apple, and it's like it leaves an impression, like you just mentioned. So, but these folks are self-sufficient, and of course, in their mind, they own their life. All the hardships that they've been through, they're more than happy to do all these things. And I don't know if people today had to go out and pump their own water, and that's why I think of the parable of the pipeline, where the folks are having to take the buckets and walk so far, even up to, a mile, even maybe more than a mile, and fill their buckets with water and then come back. And the other person in that story realizes that if he takes a little bit more time to build the pipeline, eventually all he's got to do is turn on the valve that opens up the pipeline, and the water automatically flows to him. And I think that's the secret, or the idea that goes behind the home business industry or network marketing. And I know network marketing has a black eye, because there's just so many things associated with network marketing that seem to be a put-off. In other words, if you have your own business, your home-based business, that's going to provide an income and actually financial freedom at some point, if you're doing the right things or working it the right way, it's just a huge difference to be able to say, hey, there comes a point where I'm making more money on a part-time basis than I am going to a regular job. Why would you not want something like that to be available to you and your family, and giving you an option? Like we have mentioned so many times, you're only as free as your options. Why would you not want something like that as an option? And when it comes right down to it, and of course the concept for me was, here's somebody that's making more money in a month than they make in a year, more money in a month with their part-time, with their home business, than they are working their regular job full-time. I mean, to me, that's incredibly enticing. And why would you not take a look at something like that? Unless, of course, you've tried a number of them and it just hasn't worked for you. So with everything that's available, and we talked about the options that are available to help people, and we know how to help people as well as you do. And interesting that you get to see this industry from so many different aspects. And I know that we've talked all the different things as far as you being back at the University of Chicago at Illinois, and being certified as understanding the necessities that go along with building the home-based business that maybe you're associated with. So you've got all these different businesses. We've talked about McDonald University. So I'm throwing a whole bunch of things out there just to kind of remind people of maybe some of the things that we've talked about. And I don't know if there's anything that you'd like to throw in there before we go to break, Peter, but hopefully I didn't get too long-winded, but I kind of wanted to lead people down a path. Okay, and wanted to lead them down a path to maybe we could talk a little bit about one thing in particular that seems like to be a holdup for a lot of people. And in talking to them, other than having to go out and get their own water, pump their own water, and maybe collect their own vegetables and fruits and find their own food on a daily or a weekly basis with being on the farm, it seems like everybody thinks you have to be a salesperson to be able to do this. and make your business work. And that's just it's a myth. I call it a myth that needs to be scrutinized or looked at. And that's kind of what I wanted to maybe dwell on a little bit on this episode. And I'm sure there'll be some things that you kind of want to throw in there, because I know that you have been involved with sales for quite some time. So whether I'll just kind of throw it to you, Peter, for maybe some comments, or you can take it to a commercial break and we can go from there.
Quick commercial break. Yeah, we'll do the quick commercial break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Ken Nielson on Count on the Truth Radio.
You've been listening to a special broadcast of the Building Fortunes Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio and the Humongous Radio Network. If you are interested in the world's best AI receptionist and AI business building platform, you will want to get your AI receptionist from humongous.com. Go to the specials page on humongous.com. That's YOUMONGUS.com/specials. Explore how small business owners and major corporations are using Humongous AI receptionists to do everything from answering incoming calls to scheduling appointments and even answering customer service questions. Your AI receptionist can do everything from making sure you never miss a call to texting reminders and follow-ups and even upgrading and closing more sales. Your AI receptionists will help you increase your productivity in just about everything. Building Fortunes Radio suggests you have to check them out on the specials page on humongous.com. That's YOUMONGUS.com/specials. You can make your world a better place and help others do the same with the AI receptionists at humongous.com. Now, back to our Building Fortunes Radio Show. Take it away, Peter.
And we are back. Peter Mingils here with Ken Nielson. We're talking about Count on the Truth Radio. CountOnTheTruth.com is the domain name. Make sure you check out Ken anytime you get a chance. So, you know, listening to what you're saying a little bit earlier about pumping your own water and kind of being more self-sufficient, it's kind of ringing true for me, especially today when for those people that are unfamiliar with me, I'm 64. My mom literally just passed away on Sunday. So on August 9th of 2026, my mom passed away. And there's a lot of deep reflection going on in my brain about all the things that she did and all the things that past relatives have done. And I remember, Ken, when life was simpler, life was more closer to earth, you know, my grandfather raising his own tomatoes, you know, the stuff that we used to have to do. And there was we were a lot closer to nature, if you will. So there's a lot more real stuff. And the stuff that you're talking about, you know, going out and picking your own food, you know, from your own places where you're raising it and moving water around and all those types of things, that's lost on a lot of people. And it's a distant memory. I got to share with you. It's a distant memory for me because I don't live on a farm and I don't do those things. And there's a lot of my kids have no clue. This is totally clueless to them. And I think that's a part of the problem is that like you start talking about, like you had your aunt, she made bread in the winter. Like if you didn't do your, you know, the chopping of the wood, or if you didn't have everything stored up and whatever ready, there's going to be some tough times. You're going to have to ration stuff. We don't live in that world anymore, which is great, thank gosh, you know. But in the same aspect, we've lost touch of that world and what's really most important. So I think we lose a lot of our entrepreneurial spirit because so many other things make it easy for us. And, you know, I think it's just really, if you never had it before, you got to learn it for the first time. If you had it before, you got to remember it. But being self-sufficient, having your own economy, doing your own thing, like being responsible for your own stuff is, I think, a lost art and something that home-based businesses like network marketing companies like yours give them a chance to go back to their roots, really have something, take advantage of those tax advantages, take advantage of the leverage that you get from the technology, take advantage of those things, and really go back to, you know, relationships with people, a relationship with a company, selling a product on a regular basis, servicing that customer and that distributor. I think it's kind of like a very similar parallel to like that farm. Now, here's part of the disaster. I was reading and listening to Glenn Beck a little bit earlier today, not today, this week, and he said that one of the largest populations of people committing suicides is farmers. Farmers are going bankrupt. Like 30-somewhat farmers a day are going bankrupt. And the bankruptcy rate, and why is that? Well, because the big, large farms and a whole bunch of other regulations and other things are really hurting farmers. So there's something that is, I'm not going to say attacking, but there's something that's spoiling that whole entrepreneurial thing, commercial big farms, commercial big pharma, and you got to get back. That's not good for us. That's not good.
Yeah,
and you got to really get back to people being entrepreneurs again.
Wow. Well, great takeaway, Peter. It's interesting. I think people, I don't know if they ignore those ideas, concepts, or if they just don't want to face them, because it definitely is a concern. I mean, you hear about all the different things with salmonella and the different diseases that are associated with the different foods and the sicknesses that go along with it. And that's how we feed ourselves. We go to the store and we buy the things that are packaged and brought to the various stores that are providing the meals for us. And I know that they're talking about, and I don't want to get into the politics because that takes you down a whole different rabbit hole. But I know I think it's in either Michigan, somewhere's in the up there by the Great Lakes. They've got store closures that they've been counting on, and all of a sudden all the stores have closed. And so what do these people have to do for their the ability to provide themselves with food and put food on the table so that they have a way to take care of their nutritional values and eat like they need to? So obviously they're traveling further to get to the places that are still open, and it's kind of like they've made it difficult on themselves to be able to provide for themselves. So, but again, that's a whole nother issue. I wonder about where it is that we draw a line, or we try to help people understand what we're doing, where we're headed, or why it's important, because we know that the more things change, the more things stay the same. And you're talking about suicides, and I didn't know that it was that many, 30, because I know that people that that's in
30 to 40 bankruptcies a day, and the suicide rate for 30 to 40 30 to 40 farm bankruptcies every day in the United States. And as far as suicide rates, farmers are 3 or 4 times higher than the national average. And obviously, if you're going bankrupt, you're going to feel that. And these are family farms; these are small farms. So these are in generations. So the level of despair, the level of destitution, the level of everything that goes through a farmer's mind. There's nothing hard work. Well, let's face it. Like now, farmers. I used to think farmers are working hard. They're not all working hard. In those combines or whatever the hell they are, they're $1 million things with CDs and air conditioning, whatever. They're not the same as it was, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But it's still farming is hard work. Farming is hard work. You're a big gambler. You talk about risks. You're a gambler. It's crazy.
Well, especially if you're a dry farmer and you just kind of expect Mother Nature to help you out and be consistent, and she's just not. So. Right. Yeah. Well, not only, I mean, that was amazing number statistic that you threw out there, 30. And I think of our war veterans. They say that it's gotten from, I think at one point it was 12 a day to 15 a day. Now it's 18 suicides per day. And you wonder what the desperation is there. And I know that I know some of it because I know the people that are veterans, and they come back and they go, what we come back to this nonsense that's going on out there, and what are we fighting for? And so there's got to be somebody that can keep things grounded, so to speak. And I think we've just gotten away from so much of everything that really matters. And it seems like people live I know they live in somewhat of a fantasy world, because when I talk about being able to convey the principles and concepts of the home business industry and why it really is a way to provide for financial freedom and other things as well, whether or not you're into health and wellness. I mean, there's things that can help you with, because as far as health and quality of life, we talk about the fact that are you folks willing to do your homework? Oh, no. When I'm off work, when I'm not doing anything else, I'm playing video games. So if that's not a fantasy world, I don't know what is. And I know that I went through a stage playing video games, and you go, boy, I'm kind of glad that's over, because when we would go to the bowling alleys and we had our favorite games, if you've seen a high score on a machine that you really like, well, that was time to play another game so that you get your name up there, at least be on the leaderboard somewhere, so that people knew that there was still a challenge, or that you were trying to beat a particular person. And if you ever got to meet that other person, it was always a surprise to see kind of what their ideas were, or what they were like, and why they thought that was so important to be able to beat that score that was on there. But it just seems like the electronics and everything that's associated with what used to be important is just not important anymore. And I don't know why they're willing to put themselves in a position where they go to work, they hate how many hours they've got to work, they're not making enough money, they feel like they're worth more, which I agree, I think they are too. But depending on what that particular job has to offer, there's always caps on that particular skill, or those talents, or whatever your work ethic or your skill levels, because of what you've learned. That's what you're paid at that particular position. And I know that on the website we've got a place on there where a gentleman who was the first millionaire in Canada had brought up the concept. He says you're paid as a position holder, and it depends on what part of the country you go to. For example, firefighters. If I want to be a fireman, I go to California. I'm going to make more money in California as a firefighter than I am in Utah. The question is, how much is the cost of living in California compared to where we're at? Well, of course you're going to make more there, because the cost of living is more, and so they pay you more. And with all the fires and everything that goes on in California, I'm not so sure I want to be there, where it seems like everything's burning down, and we've got our fair share of fires here also. But it seems like the whole country is having problems with that. But to be able, if you think about it, to be able to work on a part-time basis and work a home-based business because of the tax write-offs, because of the ability to leverage your time with the others that you bring into on your team, you're not having to work as one person. And I just want to throw this in real quick, because this is kind of where I was headed with being a salesperson, talking about thinking you have to be a salesperson. If I asked you, Peter, and I know this is going to catch you off guard, but we'll kind of end up with this just to kind of give people something to think about out there, because I know time has flown by again. If I told you that you were going to go talk to your buddy who's a car salesman, let's say he works for a Toyota dealer, and he has set a record for selling the most vehicles in 1 year, what would you think would be that number that would maybe you would say to yourself, well, okay, this guy has sold this many vehicles on a yearly basis? You could break it down to a monthly basis and kind of come up with a number. What do you think that number would be for selling the most vehicles in 1 year? Any ideas?
I'm guessing a good month would probably be 20. A great month would probably be 40. So 40 times 12 would bring me up around 500.
Okay, I think that's a fair guess. According, at least it says on here when we were talking about this, because I was looking up some names and ended up on here with this. His name's Cody. Cody sold 799 vehicles in 2025. Well, wait a minute. That was before 2025. He actually broke his own record and sold almost 1,800 in 2025. Wow. I mean, I have no idea how you would do that. I don't know how many salespeople are in his particular dealership, but I mean, if you divide just 800 by 12, you're probably you're close to 60, 55, 60.
Yeah,
wow.
Well, 60 would 60 to 70. That's a lot.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's like two a day. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
So I'm not sure what his secret is, but to think that obviously he's probably a millionaire and got all kinds of accolades and different awards and all kinds of things and doing very well as far as financially, having his future being bright, et cetera, to think that in the home business industry or networking industry, you maybe, I mean, on average, they say that most people bring in 1.8 people, and that doesn't mean that you chop them up or cause some type of disability for these people, but most people bring in 2 people in their entire careers, and then you wonder why they don't get ahead financially. Well, if you break things down right and you can teach them to teach others so that you don't have the blind leading the blind, and I know we talked about this last week with Charles King, and you get people that come in and they're not sure what to do, you've got to be able to help them so that they can transition their ability to help other people understand how it works. I mean, you could bring in as few as 2 people and still be successful in the industry. Now, the odds are against you. At the same time, I know these big leaders, it seem like they're on the leaderboards all the time. And we had one gal that was averaging, believe this or not, Peter, 335 people a month for 5 months. It was just astounding. And she's not even on the leaderboard anymore. It's kind of come and gone. Wow. And you say, what happened there? And I mean, we could go into our own theories and different things like that, but amazing that 335 people per month for 5 months, and she's not even on the leaderboard anymore. So we've got our extremes. We just know that probably if you bring in 2 to 5 people, and maybe a few more than that, maybe you bring in a dozen, you're probably going to be financially free within maybe 6 to 12 months. And in fact, the one gentleman that was in Excel that brought in 38 people, and I always thought that this gentleman had brought in some major companies. He was with Excel Telecommunications. He brought in 38 people and was making $1.1 million per month because of his training and his understanding of the industry. So there's just a few things I wanted to throw out today. We could have jumped in a little bit further with the sales part of it, but you don't have to be a salesperson and do numbers like these people do to be successful in the industry. You just got to be open-minded and understand, especially with everything that's available. And we mention AI right now, but even without AI, with the autoresponders and people doing the presentations for you, sometimes it's just a matter of inviting people to specific teleconferences or Zoom webinars or whatever you want to call them, and just say, hey, are you interested or not interested? And they're going to know by the end of that presentation, and it might take 20, 25 minutes of their time. So with that being said, I'll just kind of end on that, Peter, and see if there's anything you'd like to throw in there, and we'll look forward to the next week, next time.
Well, the most important thing is that people that might be listening in, they feel comfortable with who you are, what you're talking about, and they might say, hey, I want to do something like this. I may not know how, but I want to do something with this. So make sure you get in touch with Ken. Go to countonthetruth.com. That's countonthetruth.com. He's got his contact information in there, lots of buttons for you to click on, learn a little bit more. And then, of course, join us on this and other radio shows. Share this with your friends. We'll catch everybody next week. Thanks, Ken.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Building Fortunes Radio is part of the Humongous AM and Humongous FM radio network. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website to listen to your favorite shows. You can also hear us on Humongous Radio and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for.